Dear learner, welcome to this episode on airport security. Air transport has emerged as an important means of transport and its significance cannot be undermined as it is an essential element in economic development of any country in this era of globalization. An airport is a facility where aircraft such as airplanes and helicopters can take off and land. An airport minimally consists of one runway or helipad, but other common components are hangars and terminal buildings. Airport security refers to the techniques and methods used in protecting airports and aircraft from crime. Large number of people pass through airports. Such gatherings present a target for terrorism and other forms of crime due to other number of people located in a small area. Similarly, the high concentration of people on large airliners, the potential high lethality rate of attacks on aircraft and the ability to use a hijacked airplane as a lethal weapon provide an alluring target for terrorism. In this episode, we are going to learn about need for aviation security, conventions relating to aviation security, planning for security, security procedures at airports and security equipments and systems. Airport security provides first line of defense by attempting to stop attackers from bringing weapons or bombs into the airport. If they can succeed in this, then the chances of these devices getting onto aircraft are greatly reduced. Airport security serves two purposes. They are protecting the airport from attacks and crime and to protect the aircraft from attack. Monte R. Belger, the US Federal Aviation Administration, notes the goal of aviation security is to prevent harm to aircraft, passengers and crew as well as support national security and counter terrorism policy. While some countries may have uniform protection at all of their airports, in other countries like the United States, the protection is controlled at the state or local level. The primary personnel will vary and can include a police force hired and dedicated to the airport, a branch of the local police department stationed at the airport, members of the local police department assigned to the airport as their normal patrol area, members of a country's military, members of a country's airport protection service, police dog service for explosive detection, drug detection and other purposes. Other resources may include security guards, paramilitary forces and military forces. First objective is need for aviation security. Before discussing in detail about the airport security, let us discuss the need for having aviation security in general. These are the points that highlights the need for aviation security. First is aviation is a high profile industry having commercial value and is considered prestigious. Second, it offers limited risk to terrorists. Third, in the era of globalization, air travel is expanding very fast and more people are now traveling by air. Fourth, aircrafts can be used as a vehicle of attack. Fifth, past incidents against the industry such as hijacks, placing explosive devices in aircrafts, sabotaging aircraft and aviation facilities, attacking aviation facilities, etc. Conventions relating to aviation security. First one, Tokyo Convention 1963. It is a convention on offences and certain other acts committed on board aircraft. Second is the Hague Convention 1970. It is also called Hijack Convention and has 14 articles. Third one is Montreal Convention 1971. It is a convention for suppression of unlawful acts against safety of civil aviation and it has 16 articles. Fourth is Supplementary Protocol 1988. This is a protocol for suppression of unlawful acts of violence at international airports and it has 6 articles. Fifth is Marking of Plastic Explosives Convention 1991. It is a convention for marking of explosives for the purpose of detection and it has 15 articles. Sixth is Beijing Convention and Protocol of 2010. This is for the suppression of unlawful acts relating to international civil aviation. It looks at new types of threats against civil aviation. Third objective is planning for security. The subject of security has wide implications that reach for beyond the jurisdictional limits of the airport to central government itself. To meet the needs of a security emergency, it requires the involvement of a number of organizations such as Airport Administration, the operating airlines, the National Civil Aviation Organization, police, military, medical services, security services, labor unions, customs and government departments. Internationally, the ICAO recommends that each member state develop a national aviation security program that can be developed by a National Aviation Security Committee formed from the representatives of the organizations listed. Next is security procedures at airports. Airports vary in size. An airport may have a variety of facilities and infrastructure including fixed base operator services, air traffic control, passenger facilities such as restaurants, lounges and emergency services. All airports are required to have safety precautions. Airports are divided into landside and airside areas. Landside areas include parking lots, public transportation stations, tank farms and access roads. Airside areas include all areas accessible to aircraft including runways, taxiways and ramps. Access from landside areas to airside area is tightly controlled at most airports. Landside security procedures with reference to passenger terminal. Security measures in the passenger terminal are most effective in preventing subsequent unlawful acts in the air than any other part of the airport. When public are aware that a security program is in operation at the airport, the incidence of attack on the airport is lowered. Without disclosing the nature of security procedures, it is still possible to publicize that security systems are in place at the terminal of the airport. A security system operates throughout the whole passenger facilitation process of ticketing, passenger and baggage check-in and boarding. Abnormal behavior of passengers at ticketing and check-in stage should alert staff of airport to potential problems. Passenger screening is carried out by physical search and the use of electromechanical, electronic and X-ray equipment. The screening process is significantly improved by limiting carry-on baggage on one piece. Baggage is either checked automatically with the help of machines or hand searched while the personal screening is carried out by walk-through machines, supplemented where necessary by a body search. The security screening of passengers can be carried out in a decentralized way at the individual aircraft gates. Some operators believe gate screening achieves maximum security. However, it requires more screening equipment and staff. It tends to cause longer boarding delays and suffers the disadvantage that the challenge to any armed person or group is performed in the vicinity of the aircraft. Centralized security before entry to a central sterile departure launch requires less staff and can utilize less but more sophisticated equipment. The main disadvantage is that unscreened individuals might be able to infiltrate the sterile areas from the apron or through staff routes. In general, the security staff will take possession of all firearms, offensive weapons and imitations, explosives, inflammables, toxics and corrosive substances. The systematic checking of the efficiency of the security procedures of an airport is also essential. Next is landside security procedures with reference to cargo terminal. The cargo terminal is a high activity area in the airport that potentially gives illegal access to the airside areas and to passenger and to cargo aircraft. Once this is grasped, it becomes obvious that there is need for a security program in the cargo terminal that supplements that at the passenger terminal and is equally effective. Because cargo terminals do not handle passengers, security procedures are relatively simple and can be described in general terms. There, first one is identification. All staff with right to access to the airside should have security passes. Second is security of all doors and windows. Audible warning signals can be placed on doors to indicate when they are left open. Where doors or windows must be left open for ventilation, grills can be installed. Third one is control of access. No pedestrian access should be allowed through vehicular doors. Security staff should inspect the credentials of all persons entering the terminal. It is usual to control both vehicular and personal access to cargo terminals. One way of accessing the level of security in a cargo terminal is to access the level of theft and pilferage. Terminals with high levels of convention crime are likely to have insecure areas that are vulnerable to infiltration by terrorists and saboteurs. Next is airside security procedures. The airside of an airport is defined as the area of the airport used for takeoff and landing of aircraft and for the surface movement of the aircraft and all adjacent terrain and buildings to which access is controlled. Now, it is recognized that the airside is likely to be the prime target area for those undertaking an unlawful action against either an aircraft and its crew or to the passengers. It is therefore very important that the airside is protected all unauthorized intrusion which must be regarded as potentially dangerous. There are some measures that must be taken to ensure airside security. They are fencing. The airside must have an adequate security fence. It serves many purposes like it clearly defines the protected area, it provides a deterrent to the intruder, it delays and possibly inhibits the unlawful entry, and it provides defined controlled access points at gates. When access is other than by key or an automatic control of entry system, gates must be manned, illuminated and provided with alarms. Furthermore, the access point should be provided with communication to the central security unit. The fence itself must be a real deterrent to entry. Normally, it is a high, possibly barbed wire topped structure of non-sealable metal construction. Care must be taken to secure all conduits, sewers and other ducts and pipes that pass under the fence to ensure that entry to the airside is not possible this way. Next is identification of persons. Only an identified person should have access to the airside. All airports and airline ground staff members needing access to perform their jobs and all necessary aircraft queues should have passes authorizing them to enter the airside. Identification cards having photo and details of the staff covered with tamper-proof covers should be issued by the security unit of the airport authority to staff. Issue of cards should be controlled strictly. Visitors needing to visit the airside should have special passes. All passes should be checked periodically. It should be made compulsory for the staff to display their passes permanently when they are in the airside. In order to further ensure total security to airside, all pass holders to the airside should also be issued with personal identification number, that is the PIN. Then all the pass holding staff should key in the PIN associated with the pass into a computer controlled system before gaining entry into the restricted area. This system is also helpful in the case when the pass is not handed back upon leaving the job, or when the staff is assigned to another non-restricted area, the PIN can be deleted from the approved list. Next is identification of vehicles. Airside access should be granted only to those vehicles that must be airside in performing their functions. Access can be restricted by the issue of individual vehicular passes. Next is protection of aircraft on aprons. If the airside is kept secure by restricting access, normally no special protection is required for aircraft while they are on the apron. General security precautions should be taken, such as floodlighting the apron to deter intruders, locking aircraft doors and removing steps and stairs from aircraft that are on the ramps for a long time with no service crews aboard. Various intruder detection devices can also be used to ensure the integrity of the apron. Next is control of general aviation. General aviation aircraft might arrive on the airside without having any security check at their airfield of origin. Mixing of such unsecured aircraft and persons with security cleared air transport operations can be prevented by designating separate general aviation aircraft parking areas, separate taxiway routings and provision of security checkpoints on general aviation taxiways and aprons. Next is transfer and interlining passengers, baggage and cargo. The movement of transfer and interline passengers, baggage and cargo through airports can give rise to security risks, especially in the case of flights from or to a high risk area of the world. Problems also arise when the transit movement is from an airport where security is lax for whatever reason. In most major international airports, transit passengers will be separated from other airside security cleared individuals. Transfer and interline baggage and cargo have always been an operational concern because of the potential for the loss or misdirection of items. Air cargo, because it is unaccompanied, inevitably gives rise to a serious questions regarding security safeguards. Next is aircraft isolated parking position and disposal area. An airport should designate an isolated aircraft parking position that can be used for parking an aircraft when sabotage is suspected or when an aircraft appears to have been seized unlawfully. This position should be at least 325 feet from any other aircraft parking position, building, public area or utility. Furthermore, a disposal area should be designated on the airport for disposing or exploding any device found in the course of sabotage or unlawful seizure. The disposal area should also be clear of all other used areas, including the isolated aircraft parking position by at least 325 feet. Next is security equipments and systems. All airports providing air passenger transport service feed into the international system. Because of their particular vulnerability, large airports with heavy passenger volumes require sophisticated security precautions with elaborate equipment systems and substantial staffing. The requirements at very small community airports with only third level operators is less stringent, but precautions are still necessary given that smaller airports can feed passengers into the worldwide system when the passengers transit to other airlines. A major airport with an extensive security operation is likely to have most, if not all, the following devices. First device is security fencing and manned barriers. Security fencing with manned barriers at points of access is essential for maintaining the integrity of the airside landside concept of security. Next is intruder detection. Electromechanical and electronic warning systems can be set up to detect intruders who have broken into buildings or gained access to airside by illegal entry over or through the security fence. Third is lighting. Aprons and other airside areas are lit to ensure that any unlawful activities are difficult to conceal on the airside areas. Fourth is metal detection. For the detection of firearms and metallic explosive devices on the passengers and in checked and cabin carried baggages, various metal detecting devices are available. Fifth is explosives and incendiary device detectors. Explosives and incendiary devices that are not traced by their high metal content can be detected by vapor analysis detectors, neutron activation equipment, trained explosive detecting dogs. Sixth is pressure chambers. Pressure chambers, sometimes called rarefied atmosphere simulation chambers, can be used against an explosive device with a barometric trigger. Because of its potential for an explosion, the chamber must be located well away from all facilities, including the isolated aircraft parking position. Seventh is the bunker. For the disposal of bombs and incendiary devices and around any pressure chamber protection, bunker is usually constructed off earth and timber should be located well away from all other facilities. Eighth is office security equipment. Protection is required for all security restricted documents, manuals and plans. Secure metal cabinets should be used and strict measures adopted to ensure control of access by restricting the number of available keys. Last is conclusion. Airports are responsible for maintaining security measures that might well operate for years without major incident, but they must respond very rapidly if a security emergency does arise. The fact that air transport is international only adds to the difficulties. In an emergency such as hijacking or bombing of an aircraft originating in one country, an airport many thousands of miles away in another country might have to definitely deal with the incident. On a day-to-day basis, most security operations at an airport deal with activities in and around the terminal and the measures taken to ensure the safety of passengers and crews operating through the airport. An airport security committee must also be established to comply with standard 3.1.11 of Annex 17 to the Chicago Convention. Although there are many security procedures, it is important to increase the motivation of security staff, especially those engaged in the repetitive tasks involved in the screening passengers and their baggage. Thank you.